Hi, good morning, everyone. Morning. Come on, guys. I know it's Monday morning. We can do better than that. Good morning.
Good morning.
Great, excellent. We should all be excited. This is the inaugural WinOps Chocolatey Fest 2018. So I wanted to start off by thanking everyone for taking time out of your busy agendas. I know everyone's pretty busy. So thank you again from our side. So my name is, let's get this working. My name is Mukesh Sharma. I'm COO here at Chocolatey, working very closely with Rob on helping our customers on the automation and WinOps journey, and also working with our ecosystem partners. So I guess, why are we here? What were we trying to achieve? So it's kind of an interesting story. So 5 months ago, Rob and I were here in San Francisco meeting a bunch of customers. And we just left a meeting with Yelp, and we were thinking, okay, it would be good to get some people together to talk about Windows automation, WinOps, and so forth. So it's almost like the scene out of Wayne's World 2. I don't know if you guys remember that, when Garth and Wayne are thinking, yeah, we're going to put on a show, right? We don't know who's going to come, who's going to be there, and where we're going to do it. But kind of 5 months later, we're kind of here. So thank you very much for taking the time out and supporting us on this event. So what are we hoping to walk away with today, and what will you get out of today? So I guess with any kind of kickoff event, the key thing is to walk away with some ideas, best practices, and give you a chance to network. So today is not going to be the finished product, but it's the first step in helping us to kind of drive this WinOps and Windows automation journey. So no event is possible without sponsors. So I want to take a few minutes just to recognize the sponsors that have contributed here today. So our gold sponsors, Chef, Inido, JFrog, and Yelp, who actually gave us the idea to do this, and also our silver sponsors, Microsoft Azure, Puppet, and the WinOps team over in London. So thank you to everyone. In addition to sponsors, it's also critical to get fantastic content, live content, and pragmatic feedback. So also want to put a thank you out to our speakers. So we've got over 15 different workshops running today, ranging from various topics, and everyone's gone out of their own personal time to put together this content. So thank you again to our speakers for contributing and helping us put this all together. So I guess with anything today, it's important that we share what we see, what we learn, what you think is interesting. So please do take time to share any messaging, anything interesting you see through the different social media platforms that are available. If you haven't already got connection to the Wi-Fi, pretty straightforward. It's Chocolatey Fest 2018. In addition to the Wi-Fi, we set up a Slack channel, so allowing you to communicate and collaborate while you're here as well. So if you see anything interesting, please feel free to connect through that. And the other really important thing for us is we've put together a lot of different messages, a lot of different talks, a lot of different discussions. So if you haven't done so already, can you please take a few minutes just to look at the schedule? So you can go to the chocolateyfest.com website, and you can look at the schedule builder and pull together whatever's interesting for you today. So in terms of the workshops, they're flexible. So you can go into which one you feel is important to you. But the key thing is let us know which one you want to go to. We don't want to turn away people, and we want to make sure that the facilities are there in place. So what are the goals for today? So it's kind of an interesting day, right? So I found out it's Columbus Day, right? So 1492, Christopher Columbus discovers, or the first European to discover the Americas. And I guess it was kind of a coincidence. It also turned out to be the day we put together our WinOps Chocolatey Fest event as well, as we're kind of on this journey. So interesting story comes to mind. So when I was at school, one of the teachers said, can someone describe an entrepreneur? And the guy put up his hand and said, Christopher Columbus. I said, how was he an entrepreneur? Well, he managed to raise a fundamental amount of money for his project. Didn't know where he was going, how he was going to get there, and what he was going to find, but he managed to achieve it, right? And I'm sure we've all been in projects like that, where you kind of get stuck into something. So it's interesting in terms of discovery and the journey that we're on today. So when we were putting together the theme for this event, this fest, this kind of workshop, this meetup, whatever you want to call it, we wanted to take a step back and listen to what we were hearing in the marketplace. So from our community members, our customers, and our partners. And some common themes and myths and challenges appeared. So as we were beginning to kind of blend together the session today, we wanted to focus on some of those big themes and smaller themes. So the first thing that we sometimes hear is that WinOps or DevOps is not really for a Windows environment, right? So you kind of hear that very often. And I guess if you think about it, DevOps came from a Linux background typically, right? Open source communities, open source tools, focused on Linux. And again, if you think about Windows and Linux, they tend to be different in terms of technologies, but also philosophically. Then if you begin to look at the properties of what DevOps is, culture, automation, measurement, sharing, and one could think, do they really apply to a traditional Windows environment? And many people may say yes, maybe no, right? But then if you look at what's happening in the market today, there's a shift going on, right? So some of those shifts include, firstly, the fact that Microsoft itself is recognizing communities, open source, and developing technologies to kind of drive that automation. Okay. In fact, we were recognized at the Microsoft Build event, thank you to Joseph here from Microsoft, as a technology that helps organizations move faster and innovate. And secondly, you're beginning to see the adoption of PowerShell much more prevalent, right? So allowing organizations to interact with systems differently, right? So rather than having to focus on a traditional GUI approach, which could be limited in terms of interactability and customization, but allowing them to create repeatable, customizable, automated environments. So I'd say less of a myth, more of a fact today in terms of what we're seeing, and hopefully today is the first step in us kind of driving that further. Second thing is we hear very often is, how do I improve user experience? So in today's environments, users demand immediate interaction, customization, and response, right? And when we speak to a lot of organizations, they want to move away from the kind of brutal click, 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 next, click, right? To a much more elegant and user-friendly approach, right? Whether it's your dev teams, it's your desktop users, or it's the server teams, right? So how do you move to a more elegant self-service approach is something that comes up very, very often for us. Then, of course, it's how do you do more with less? So I guess when you all moved into the IT world, you had to interview for IT skills, but you didn't realize you also had to have circus skills, right? So you have to juggle different balls, you have to walk on a tightrope, and you have to be acrobats, right? So the challenge tends to be, how do I do more with less, right? So we all have the situation where you're sitting down and someone walks down and a mandate, we need to move 10 times faster, we need to move 10 times quicker, we need to scale the operations here, here, and here. And by the way, you've got to do it with the same resources or even less, right? So if you don't have access to the corporate DeLorean, how do you create more time and effort and resources to get that done? So then you begin to think about, are traditional tools and approaches really going to help me move faster, help me scale the business, and how do I spend less time putting out fires and focusing on the value? And we'll talk a little bit about that today, particularly from some of our customers and partners who are helping drive that journey and share some of the learnings that they've gained as well. The other key thing we hear about is integration, standardization, looking at this challenge across a workflow perspective, whether it's vertical or horizontal, right? So it would be great to throw away everything and start afresh, but organizations have already invested. You guys have already invested in technologies, right? So how do you begin to leverage what you've got today, but also take into consideration what you've got coming down the line, whether it's containers, whether it's workspaces in Amazon, or whatever it may be. So the key thing that we think about is, how do we help organizations with our partners create an ecosystem or a platform where you can integrate with everything from SCCM, Puppet, Chef, Jenkins, right over to Amazon, Docker, Kubernetes, and so forth. And then how do you begin to extend that across a workflow environment as well? So rather than just having to stand up an environment and forget about it, how do you manage the life cycle from birth to death across that desktop, across that server? And then how do you standardize that? And again, we'll hear from some of our customers and partners today how they've gone on that journey and begin to standardize. So they're moving away from pets more to cattle. And lastly, the key question that comes out, this all sounds great, right? I want to automate, I want to go down the WinOps journey, I want to be in containers, I want to move to the cloud, I want to do X, Y, Z, but where do you start, right? And this is part of where today's theme is really going to kind of boil out, and we'll be able to tease up some key points. So I guess we'll hear from people already on the journey, and we'll hear from people who are starting the journey. And you may be at either end of that scale. And the key thing is we're not going to manage to achieve everything in one day, but hopefully we'll get enough discussion and debate, and through the workshops and sessions you'll get an understanding of some of the areas that we're working on. So let's talk a little bit about what we see, right? So in terms of what are we seeing in terms of the community, in terms of packaging, in terms of adoption of technology such as Chocolatey. So back in 2013, we started tracking how many community package installations were out there, right? So we started off, it's about 1.6 million, jumped up to 9 million, then we went up to 36 million, then we saw a jump over the 100 million mark, which was great. 2017, we got 270 million. Any guesses on where do you think we'll end at the end of this year? No, Rob, you can't answer that. Any guesses from anyone? There is a small prize, a t-shirt, maybe some chocolate, you don't know. Any guesses, anyone? Spot on, sir. I don't know if you saw my slides earlier on, but that's perfect, well done. We'll get you something at the end, thank you. Again, look, key thing here is we're not IDC, we're not Gartner, we're not looking at other market indicators. We're simply looking at our community and the adoption of packages, right? So clearly something's happening in the marketplace, right? So whether that's the adoption of a cloud-native microservices approach or a shift from traditional technologies, organizations are beginning to think, actually, this packaging approach and Windows automation is actually going to make my life easier. So as I look to wrap up this first part of today, where are we going, right? What do we see as some of the key priorities that we think are going to be important for our community, for our customers as we go forward? So the first thing is keeping it easy, right? Our goal always has been, and Rob's goal from the day of creating Chocolatey, is to simplify things, is to hide the complexity from what exists in the kind of the IT environment. So how do we continue to simplify that and look at that across the workflow environment as well? Second thing is being open, right? So continue to support the open source project, but continue to be open in terms of technology stacks that you have today. How do you integrate with everything that exists out there today and what's coming around the corner? So we have a very open approach in working with our customers and partners. And the last thing is value, right? So value has different subjective meanings and views, but value to us means three things. So first thing is your time is valuable. So how do we help you automate the mundane tasks that you're doing by hand today to spend time focusing on more the value-added items? Number two is value back to your business and your stakeholders. So everyone is under cost pressure, whether you're looking to maximize revenue or drive operational efficiencies. How do you go back to the business and start saying, hey, I know we've invested a lot of money in a lot of different things, but are those tools really helping me move faster? And are there other technologies out there that are going to be a little bit more disruptive, may not be standard, but they're going to help me do my job better and actually add value back to the business? And the third piece about value is how do you become more valuable, right? So events like this is really about you understanding what is happening between your peers, between your communities, so your market value also increases as technology experts. Okay, so with that, I'm just going to pause for a second, and I want to take the opportunity to invite a gentleman, a good personal friend of mine, and the founder, creator of Chocolatey, Rob Reynolds. Please come to the stage.
Test. Hey guys, we did it. We're here. Can you imagine 10 years ago, right? 10 years ago, if somebody would have said, Chocolatey, that's going to be something you're going to have serious conversations about, all of you would have laughed, right? I probably would have laughed too. But now we have serious conversations about Puppet, Chef, right? Salt Stack, all that stuff. And it's just amazing where we're at today. And we're going to hear lots of talks from lots of awesome speakers. So I'm really excited about today. Coming to the end of this, we'll come back together, and I'll give that, the future of Windows automation. Should be semi-entertaining. Hopefully, it's educational as well. So, thanks.
Thank you. Thanks, Rob. Cheers. So, we'll hear more from Rob later on. So before I hand over to our speakers, I just want to take a few minutes just to recap what we're going to be doing today, right? So in a few minutes, I'm going to hand over to the team from Yelp and then over to CME, Tony, who'll talk a little bit about their journey and where they're going and lessons learned. We'll take a short networking break. Of course, we are running a little bit over time, so we'll try and squeeze in as much time as possible to get everything going. And at that point, really, it comes down to choices, right? It's your time here, guys. Decide what you think is going to be important for you in terms of the workshops. Again, our forum here is very open, so pick and choose what you think is going to work for you. Followed by lunch and networking. Then we'll continue with the workshops right after lunch. So again, there's more good activity, good discussion, good content for you to go and look at. And then we'll come back here just after 4 o'clock, where we'll hear from Rob around the future of automation. Closing raffle, and then there's going to be dinner and a hackathon, right? So there's a lot of stuff to get through today. So with that, I want to switch gears now and actually change the conversation to something which is much more pragmatic, right? And hear from one of our great customers, great sponsor and contributor to what we're doing. And that's the team over at Yelp. So if I could invite on stage, please, Peter and Mark. Thank you, guys.